right, welcome into week 7 of BSP Sunday Morning Fantasy, brought to you by backsportspage.com. I'm your co-host, Ryan Stern. Joined with me, as always, Marthani Sanders. What's going on?
Man, can't complain. Just living. Tough week this week. A lot of the heavy hitters in fantasy on bye week, so this is a crucial week for a lot of people.
A lot. And it's crazy. You got week 7, week 9, and week 14 are the three that I notice have the real majority of the heavy hitters. And what sucks about this week is, the quarterbacks.
Yeah,
You have two of the top three quarterbacks or four quarterbacks and even in some scoring, the top two quarterbacks in fantasy football with Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts on bye. A lot of people scrambling. Injuries are starting to creep up. I know I'm in a super flex league where I have Josh Allen, I have Russell Wilson. Both of those two are not playing.
ouch.
Both are not playing today. So I am going with the stunning combination of Davis Mills and Brett Rippon.
Woo.
Uh, yeah. I actually think Davis Mills has a pretty good matchup this weekend against the Raiders, so I'm not concerned there. But yeah, playing Brett Rippon, I was even considering going a non-quarterback with either Deonta Foreman or Alec Pierce in my Superflex. That's how crazy things are. But what a week, especially because we're we're in Thursday night football. We're in Thursday night football. We're finally getting scoring, and it's doing absolutely no good for anybody.
Right.
You have Kamara putting up okay points. You have Hopkins putting up okay points, but with all of the touchdowns being scored, who had? Eno Benjamin maybe
Right.
was the only one that
Maybe.
was being played that scored a touchdown. And then we get the news during Thursday night football. It's daddy duty for me today. Yeah, I know, bud. You don't want to be playing Davis Mills and Brett Rippon either. But then we get the huge news that Christian McCaffrey is traded to the 49ers. Now, I want to get your immediate reactions for this week and what's to come for both teams.
um, when the news broke down immediately, I already thought like, well, who's next from the Panthers? I figured that
Right.
maybe they'll just blow it up and just to totally rebuild. But they've came out and said that they've already rejected a trade where there was 2 first-round picks
Two
there
firsts for Brian Burns.
Burns, for
And
Ryan
I get
Burns.
that because Burns is still on his rookie deal and
Yeah,
he's an elite player. He's
yeah,
someone that you can build around. But yeah, it's crazy. I immediately thought this is a great move for Christian McCaffrey, but not for this week.
yeah.
But it's so hard to bench him. How do you bench Christian McCaffrey, especially when he's going into that system, even though he's had 2 practices? Um, I have him. I'm starting him, but my expectations are lowered a little bit.
Very, very low. Yeah, I just thought everybody was who was going to be next from Carolina, and then for the 49ers side, yeah, definitely a great look for them, big upgrade. For the people who own like Jeff Wilson, obviously they're probably like, I don't know, but at least for this week, I don't think it should be an issue just because he's just getting there so fast. I don't think they should panic in this week for him, but in the future, yes, that's huge for San Francisco.
So if anyone has any questions about their lineup, make sure you send them in the comments, whether you're watching YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. We will answer them live. And here we go. We have our first question, and it has to deal with Christian McCaffrey. So he says, so I'm a Christian McCaffrey owner. He also has Fournette and Pierce. So, that's as
Oh,
solid
solid.
a 2 and 3 as you can go as you can have right now. Yeah, CMC in the flex for this week. Do you start Christian McCaffrey, Deontay Johnson, or Curtis Samuel? See, when I'm looking at these other two options, you have Deontay Johnson, who just has not been able to figure out any sort of chemistry with either Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. He should be the obvious answer, but to me, because there's nobody that sticks out, I'm starting Christian McCaffrey over those two. But again, knowing that my expectations should be lowered because of what's going on.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing as well, just because Deontay Johnson, if he had the rapport with the quarterback, I would probably go with Deontay Johnson
Yeah.
because of that. Because definitely not Curtis Samuel, just because there's no Carson Wentz for the time being. Taylor Heineke is going to get the start, so not really. And the offensive line for Washington is just not that good. So I don't know if Curtis Samuel would get as much, even though there's no Jahan Dotson today too. So he could get those more of those targets and shares, but I wouldn't trust it. I would probably stick with Christian
Yeah.
McCaffrey too, just to.
It's
I
it's
mean,
Taylor Heineke also
yeah, yeah,
in at quarterback for Washington. We have not seen, because even with all the time that Heineke has been in Washington, Curtis Samuel was never really on the field for him, so we don't know what to expect. I think it's a big Terry McLaurin week. We've seen a decent chemistry with only Terry McLaurin
right.
with Taylor Heineke. All right, we have from Andrew a DFS question. Here we go.
Okay, okay.
Uh, we got Davis Mills at 6,300 or Geno Smith for 6,800. So for me, this is all about what I can get with that extra 500. If there's somebody that I can get an immense upgrade at either wide receiver, running back, or tight end with that extra 500, then I will go Davis Mills. If it's something of more a linear upgrade, then I'd probably go with Geno. But I do think Davis Mills against Oakland is a decent play.
That's yeah. This is a tricky one, just because it depends on what else that you may be looking for the extra five that you mentioned. I'm probably gonna go Davis Mills for the 6,300, just because I think this is which we'll get into later. I think it's gonna be a bigger game in the backfield for Seattle, maybe more so today
Yeah,
than what Geno Smith will do against the Chargers. So
yeah.
I'll
So
probably go with Davis Mills.
yeah, it's so close between the
Yeah.
two of them right now that the 500 extra to play around with may be the way to go. Thank you, Andrew, for sending in that question. All right, let's quickly get into our best bets of the week before we get into our studs, and sleepers. Give me your two best bets of the week.
So one of my best bets I got here. There's one team all year so far who has went against the spread and won each time, and that is the Atlanta Falcons. So as they say, good teams win, great teams cover. The spread is the spread is at 6.5, so just right at right under a touchdown or so, a couple field goals. Going up against the Cincinnati Bengals, and I mean, on the confidence level, so if I had to rate it from 1 to 10, it's probably a 6, just because you just never know. The Bengals could be so explosive to where that spread could take off. However, Atlanta has kind of been overachieving just a little bit, and it's just kind of like, well, why not? They've done it so far. Let's just keep going to see if they can continue to, cover against the spread. So why not go ahead and take Atlanta one more time to see if they can get you some more money?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I actually wouldn't mind buying the extra point. Get it
Yeah.
up to a 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
You're going from a minus about 115 to a minus 140. I'll pay that extra toll just to get to that over 7 number. But I definitely like that. What do you guys? Your other one?
The other one, I'm going with the Detroit Lions and Dallas Cowboys. I think the over underline is at 48.5. Dak's coming back. Dak's Prescott first game coming back since the first week, and why not be against one of the worst defensive teams here in the league to come back and maybe get things going. And if they end up getting a lot of points, obviously the Lions will try to have to play catch up, and obviously they do better inside than they do outside. When they played a couple weeks ago against New England, they looked terrible, but all the other games they've been inside and they've done pretty well. So inside game again, they could be playing catch up. It's a chance that one can hit over that 48.5 and go 49.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with and you were a little playing with your favorite team. I'm gonna go with mine. How the hell are the New York Giants 3-point dogs over with the Jacksonville Jaguars? How the hell are they dogs?
I don't get it. I saw that and I was like, nah.
You
No
give
way.
me the Giants on the money line all freaking day.
I'm taking it. I was like, bet. I'm taking it. Let's go.
Day I'm taking the Giants on the money line. My God. And the Jaguars are also going to be without their top cornerback, Shaq Griffin. I mean, how does Vegas? I know the whole home away giving this they're trying to tell us, because it's usually about a 2 to 3 point swing from a neutral field to a home field. So that means they're telling us that on a neutral field, the Jaguars and Giants are a pick 'em right now. That just absolutely blows my mind.
Because I don't see it.
I'm taking the Giants on the money line all day, and I'm also taking going to the other New York team, the Jets. It's a 39.5 point spread or total. I do not see any way, and that's a really low number. That's a low number for the NFL. I don't see how they get to that.
When I saw it, I was like, are y'all trying to trick me to go ahead and just? And I'm like, but there's no way that they could. I don't see it.
How do the Broncos? I mean, the Jets defense has been one of the better defenses over the course of their 3-game winning streak. I don't see any way that this Denver offense, with now Brett Rippon at the helm instead of Russell Wilson, is going to come close to putting up 20 points against the Jets offense. And the Broncos defense has been elite for 2.5 years now.
Right.
I don't see any way the Jets get to 20 in this game. So I like the Jets Broncos under. All right, let's get into our studs, and sleepers. Before we do, we got another question. Deontay Johnson or Romeo Doubs at the wide receiver 2 spot. Jalen Waddle in the 1 and playing the Miami defense. Miami is going up against Pittsburgh, so I don't mind having a wide receiver playing against a defense that I'm rostering, because you don't necessarily need points on the board in order to have a decent day. But again, we just haven't seen it from Deontay Johnson. Romeo Doubs, we've seen glimpses of, and they're getting the Washington defense. I think this could be a get-right week for Green Bay. I'm going with Doubs.
Yeah, I don't think is too much of a big concern when you have a wide receiver going up against maybe a defense you have. Like, I mean, for example, I have in another league where I have TJ Hawkinson starting in the lineup at tight end, and I have the Dallas Cowboys defense. Right, I mean, it's going to be give or take. It is what it is. One or the other, is going to have to give. But I do think, once again, it's just Johnson not having that rapport right now with either of the quarterbacks is just scary. So I would probably go with Romeo Doubs as well, since he's going up against that Washington defense.
All right, studs of the week. Run down your quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end.
All right. So this week for my studs of the week at quarterback, I'm going with Derek Carr up against Houston. At running back, I'm taking Kenneth Walker against the Chargers. Brandon Ayuk at wide receiver against the Kansas City Chiefs, and Robert Tunyon up against the Commanders for Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean Kenneth Walker, and I'm so happy. I am so happy because I have stashed Kenneth Walker on over 50% of the teams that I drafted, and now he is going to pay off because he's a league winner right now
Right.
because of where you drafted him. He could end up being a top 5 running back. That's a league winner. The matchup is just yeah. Kenneth Walker is in every single one of my DFS lineups this week. All right, we've got another question before I get into my studs, duds, and sleepers. Tunyon or Fryermuth?
Hmm.
Yeah, this is. I don't think you can go wrong. I think both are on a very similar trajectory. But to me, Robert Tunyon has the higher upside. We saw him finally get truly involved last week. 9 catches for over 90 yards and a touchdown. No Randall Cobb in the lineup this week or the next couple weeks for Green Bay. I'm going with Tunyon.
Yeah, I'm taking Robert Tunyon as well. I mean, I just mentioned him as my stud tight end for the week. Because even before, I mean, either quarterback or for Fryer move, it's kind of been like touchdown or bust with them. And that's just which obviously outside of maybe like Kelsey, that's a tricky game that you're playing with all the tight ends. I mean, you can throw in a couple of them, but uh, I think I'm right there with you. Robert Tunyon is going on the trajectory to where he's going to be more involved here in this offense for the weeks to come. So I think I would go with Tunyon instead of Fryer move.
All right, so my studs of the week, quarterback, and we're going to be in line with one of your bets because both my quarterback and my running back are going to be from the Dallas Cowboys. I have Dak Prescott as my stud quarterback of the week, and I got Ezekiel Elliott as my stud running back of the week. This may be one of those if you don't have Ezekiel Elliott, you might want to try and get him over the next 12 minutes in a trade because I think after today it's going to be much harder
Yeah.
to try and acquire him. But if you have him, this may be one of those weeks where you see Zeke go off and you can get a ransom for him because there isn't going to be a whole lot that more or there aren't going to be more matchups in store for Ezekiel Elliott that are going to be as juicy as this one. My stud running wide receiver of the week is Michael Pittman Jr. And my stud tight end of the week is Daniel Bellinger.
Oh,
And I
cool.
know Daniel Bellinger could fall into the sleeper portion of the thing. But to me, Daniel Bellinger is going to be one of those guys who is necessary to this offense because of the fact that they haven't been able to keep their wide receivers healthy on the field. Daniel Bellinger, we've seen him already in the end zone 3 times this year. And for a 4th round rookie to have that much success that early in the season can only mean good things going forward. So I like Daniel Bellinger as my stud tight end of the week. All right, let's move on to duds. Who you got as your duds of the week?
My duds for this week at quarterback, I'm going with Justin Fields. It's just that's a bad matchup that he has against the Patriots. Running back and wide receiver, I'm going to that Jets Broncos game that you mentioned earlier, and that's Melvin Gordon and Jerry Judy. Probably any running back for out that Broncos backfield, I probably wouldn't even touch either. But it's just not going to bode well for either one of those. And then once again, the same matchup in the Broncos Jets game. Tyler Conklin uh, for all my duds this week. So heavy on that Jets Broncos games for not a lot of fantasy output.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with as my dud, uh, Trevor Lawrence. The Giants just have not been giving up points to quarterbacks. I don't see that changing this week. Jamal Agnew is also out for the Jaguars. No, he's not necessarily one of the big pieces, but he's a good complementary piece for the Jaguars. I just we saw the Giants hold Lamar Jackson to a QB 16 performance last week. I just don't see that happening there. My dud running back of the week. Sorry, you're gonna have to is Jonathan Taylor. I just we know that he's quote unquote healthy. Again, if you're in season long, there's no way you can bench him as long as he's playing. I'm
Right.
just not going near him in DFS. We just don't know exactly what sort of touch count he's going to be on. So I'm going to stay away from him there. My dud wide receiver of the week is Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is coming back again. So I'm avoiding the guys who are coming back from injury. Keenan Allen is supposed to be playing. I wouldn't even mind fading him in season long. Let me get a glimpse of Keenan Allen before I can have the belief in being able to play him. And my tight end of the week, and I know a lot of people are on him because of the whole revenge factor. But again, I'm gonna go with Evan Engram. Engram, a lot of people are on him because of the fact that he's going up against the Giants, but the only tight end that we've seen put up a top 12 tight end week against the Giants was Mark Andrews, and that's because he was all that Baltimore had last week.
Right.
So Evan Ingram's going to be my dud of the week. All right, let's get on to sleepers. Again, if you have any last minute questions, feel free to put them in the comments wherever you're watching. We will answer them live on air for you.
Let's see. My sleepers for the week, I am going with at quarterback Ryan Tannehill. He usually kind of has nice games after he comes off a bye week. He's been pretty successful against the Colts here recently. My running back sleeper, I'm gonna go with Kenyon Drake. He'll probably be the top running back coming out of the backfield for Baltimore since there's no J.K. Dobbins for no time soon. My sleeper wide receiver, I am going with Wan'Dale Robinson against the Jaguars. I mean, he's been coming on here lately, so I really like that one. And then speaking of another revenge factor here, my sleeper tight end, I'm gonna go with Hayden Hurst going up against Atlanta. Um, feel like that Cincinnati is using him a lot more than what he has been used compared to where he was in Baltimore and in Atlanta. So he's coming on here lately too. I think those are nice little, good little sleeper picks for, especially if you got those guys who's on those bye weeks right now that you just want to stick in for the time, and even in a DFS too.
So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go with a stack as my a sleeper stack, and it's gonna be Matt Ryan with Alec Pierce. If you've paid attention to backsportspage.com, every week myself and Anthony Yip put out a waiver wire article. I've been hammering the fact that I want everybody to pick up Alec Pierce. I think that this is, and I had Michael Pittman as my stud. Alec Pierce is my sleeper. I think that they're going to, we saw Indianapolis finally allow Matt Ryan
Right.
to unleash the ball last week. And with Jonathan Taylor still not 100% healthy, I think we're in store for another big game. The Titans have not been good against the pass so far this year. So I'm all about the Colts passing offense. My sleeper running back of the week, and this is something that came out this morning. Ian Rappaport with the big news that it looks like Isaiah Pacheco is going to be the starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs this week
Ooh.
again. And it's not a great matchup, but we've seen that the Chiefs like this guy. The Chiefs really like him. He was one of the preseason stars. I think he's got a chance, especially in a PPR, to put up a really good game. He's really cheap on DFS, so I think he's someone that you can get in your lineup to save a lot of money. And my sleeper tight end is going to be Greg Dulcich. Uh, Unfortunately, we now have Brett Rippon, but usually when you have backup quarterbacks, who do they rely on? They rely on that tight end. And we saw Greg Dulcich get the same snap percentage as Jerry Jeudy and the same amount of routes run than Jerry Jeudy last week. In fact, I think he actually had a higher snap percentage and the same route run percentage as Jerry Jeudy last week. Greg Dulcich on DFS is the bare minimum at 2,500. And plus he has the greatest stash in in the NFL right now, and that means a lot to me. So so I do think even with someone like a Brett Rippon, and they could have been running a lot of routes together with the second team early in the season or over the past couple weeks. Now that Dulcich, I think, has established himself as the starting tight end in Denver, I think that we can start to see a breakout. I actually started picking him up on a couple teams. So that's going to wrap it up for sleepers. There are two things that I want to discuss before we wrap up. One is I think there's a great stash opportunity, not a mustache, but someone to stash on your bench. And you brought up Kenyon Drake, and I think Kenyon Drake is going to be great this week. But I think a must stash is Gus Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
They love Gus Edwards in
Right.
Baltimore.
They do.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, he's just another guy, but they love him there. And now with J.K. Dobbins going on IR, I do think Kenyon Drake is going to be a part of this offense, but it would not shock me if in a week or two we start to see Gus Edwards get the majority of the carries. And the second thing I want to bring up is if you don't have Josh Jacobs in your cash lineups this week, what are you doing? He's only 6,500 going against the worst rush defense in all of football. And he's been a top, 3 or 4 running back all season long. Josh Jacobs, and I didn't feel right about putting him as my stud of the week, only because everyone's starting Josh Jacobs. Not everyone is starting Ezekiel Elliott.
Right.
But Josh Jacobs has to be in your fantasy, in your DFS lineups this week. All right, so that's going to do it. We're about to get kicked off with the 1:00 games. Martha, I want to thank you for joining. Thank you to everyone sending in their lineup questions. Make sure you're checking out backsportspage.com for all Marthani stuff. You got my stuff going up on a weekly basis with the fantasy waiver wire report, and make sure you're following Back Sports Page on all social media. Marthani, let's do this again next week, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Until next week, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Good luck, everybody. Have a great one.